Well, we've talked about real estate bias against people of color and the people who say they were falsely accused of discrimination. Now, my next guest, Dr. Corey Yeager, is the psychotherapist for the Detroit Pistons and author of How Am I Doing? 40 Conversations to Have with Yourself. I've read this book. It is a very thought-provoking book. He says not only is real estate bias bad for health, but it's also a correlation between poor physical health and mental health and the socioeconomic, racial, and ethnic composition of the neighborhood you live in. Explain what you mean, doctor.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
It is.
But Doc, what I would say is the hopelessness that is incurred by this real estate bias produces a struggle in the mental wellness of African Americans. So not only am I struggling from the lack and the opportunity for generational wealth and the handoff,
Absolutely.
but now I'm struggling with my own wellness. And I may well hand that struggle off to the generations that come behind me. So finding ways in which to address these issues in a manner that is fitting our mental wellness struggles is really important. I think one of the struggles that we have in this country around the issue of race is that we have yet to have a truth and reconciliation conversation. So if you go to South Africa and talk about issues, they'll tell you about apartheid. They'll tell you the story and the struggles of apartheid and the ills of that process. In this country, we won't really do that. We want to move to reconciliation without having truth-telling. So if we also, one of the things that I'll add is that we have a lack of understanding and contextualizing race. What we'll do in this country is decontextualize race. We'll move and pull context away because it's easier to explain things away, right? But if we add context to the conversation, it draws and asks for more information and deeper understanding. So for instance, as we watched George Floyd be murdered on the streets of my city in Minneapolis, white folks saw that as being a very bad thing. That was negative. But it was an incident. It was a unique, isolated thing that they watched. But as we in the Black community watched that, we saw 400 years of history on that moment. So when we talk about real estate bias and all these biases that we struggle with, there is a long and storied history of that struggle and a question that begs, what will we do to move through it?
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.